What if everything we've been taught about burnout is backwards? It's not actually about more self-care. Welcome to this episode of the Biology of Trauma podcast. I am your host, Dr. Amy. In 2014, I couldn't get out of bed. I was the doctor in burnout with no answers for myself. From this experience grew the concept and the framework of what I teach and coach people through now in the Biology of Trauma. Today, I'm sharing the story of my patient Claire, who I talk about in my book. She was the Energizer Bunny from chapter 2. She was a marathon runner until one day she couldn't push through anymore. This was the piece that she was missing around burnout and fatigue. I'm going to cover that in this episode because it might change everything for you as well. Let's dive in. Chapter 15. It's okay, Mom. Just rest. I'll tell you all about it when I get back. Claire watched her 14-year-old daughter Emma adjust the comforter around her shoulders. Emma's track meet, her first district meet, was in 2 hours. Claire had laid out her Team Emma t-shirt the night before. She was determined to be there this time. But here she was, in bed again. That bone-deep exhaustion that no amount of sleep seemed to touch, the fog in her head, the heaviness in her body. Emma kissed her forehead. "I'll take care of you when I get back," she said. And her smile looked too old for her young face. Claire managed a weak nod. She held it together until she heard the front door close. And then the tears came. Hot, bitter tears full of shame. The irony wasn't lost on her. Her bookshelf was lined with certificates from health training programs. Her iPad was full of notes about nervous system regulation, meditation techniques, and breath work. She knew so much. She had tried everything. Yet here she was, missing another moment with her daughter, watching her daughter become the caretaker. Claire used to be the Energizer Bunny. That's what her friends had called her. She ran marathons. She tackled life with unstoppable drive. When the fatigue first started creeping in after her second pregnancy, she did what she'd always done. She pushed harder. More coffee, more courses, more certifications, more trying. Her doctors told her it was stress, chronic fatigue syndrome, or burnout. Do more self-care, manage your stress better, they said. And so she meditated. She did the breath work. She took every course she could find. She tried everything, and nothing worked. And secretly, Claire started to believe what her body seemed to be telling her, which was she was broken, that other people could have good lives, good health, happy relationships, but not her. Other people could have energy. Other people could heal, but not her. What Claire still needed to realize, what I hadn't realized about my own burnout, is that everything we've been taught about stress is actually backwards. The problem was not that Claire was stressed. The problem wasn't that she needed more self-care. The problem is that she didn't know the two critical skills her body actually needed. And this changed everything for me as well as for Claire. What if I told you that the problem is not the stress? What I discovered in my journey to get my life back gave me my life back. Everything that I had been taught about stress, everything that you've been taught about stress is actually completely backwards. We've been told stress is the enemy. What do we need to do with stress? We need to avoid it. We need to reduce it. We need to manage it. What have you been told that you need to do with stress? Calm it down, push it down, work on it, manage it. Have no stress. We just need to do more self-care. We need to release it. We need more self-care. If more self-care worked, it would have worked by now, people. The self-care is not the problem. It's actually everything that we've been taught about stress is backwards. Stress is not the enemy. It's not even the problem. The problem is not that you are stressed. The problem is that you don't know the two critical skills your body actually needs. Two critical skills. And that's what I want to share with you, because those two skills have been what gave me my life back. Going from not even being able to get out of bed one morning to a life that I never imagined would be possible given my level of burnout that I had experienced before. So let's jump into skill number one. You need to be able to generate a good stress response. Not a wimpy one, not a mediocre one, a good stress response. What is a good stress response? What is the purpose of a stress response? This is what we need to know if we're going to generate a good one. What am I actually supposed to do? Or another way to ask the question is, how am I supposed to stress? What is the right way to stress? This is part of it. The right way to stress is to generate a good stress response. Skill number one, generate a good stress response. Wimpy stress responses, they are actually the ones that lead to burnout and trauma biology. So we want to generate a good stress response. Skill number two. This is a piece that everyone misses as well, because we are in stress often all day long, but we never complete it. We never discharge it. We never reset. It's like taking a deep breath in and never breathing out. Never exhaling. We take in stress and never exhale it. And it's that incomplete stress energy is what keeps us on the hamster wheel. It's why you feel exhausted and yet can't rest. It's why the problems then become overwhelming, because we cannot stay in that stress without completing it. And so it's why we have nothing left for our purpose. Let's go back to this diagram, because now that you know those two skills, now you can better understand what it is that helps prevent us from going into burnout and the trauma biology, which is crossing this critical line of overwhelm. We can see that this white line represents our energy level, represents our adrenaline level. And the higher the stress, the more energy we have, because the more adrenaline we have. And if we can't generate that energy, then this line actually gets moved over to what our limit is for what we can generate. And we go into burnout and trauma response earlier because we couldn't generate a stress response. So if we can only do a little bit, once we get to our line of limit, then that stress is no longer just stress. We're crossing the line over into overwhelm. So the critical skill that we need to learn is to be able to generate a great stress response, so that whatever the demand against us, we can meet that demand. We can meet that demand. Whatever the demands against us, we can generate the energy to meet that demand. But the next critical skill that we want to look at is, once I've generated a stress response, what do I do with it? Because you can see this line that shows that it builds and builds and builds until you go into shutdown. So how do I prevent crossing the line? I need to be able to generate and then reset back to calm aliveness. I need to be able to generate and reset back to calm aliveness. I can't stay here and have it build and build without eventually crossing that line of overwhelm. And yet this is what so many of us do. what so many of us do is that we let it build, not knowing how to reset. And so we build, and then we get overwhelmed. And now we're back in just that cycle of stress and overwhelm, crossing that line over and over again, because we're not following these two skills of being able to generate a stress response and then complete a stress response before we ever get to that line. Claire began to see her critical line of overwhelm. She had always been a generator. She could rev her engine to meet any demand. That's why they called her the Energizer Bunny. She could push and push through, but completing, resetting, exhaling, she had never learned to do that. Every stress she'd ever felt had just accumulated, like taking breath after inhalation, but never breathing out. No wonder her body eventually said, enough, I'm shutting down. Her chronic fatigue wasn't a mystery. It is the predictable result of a body that has been inhaling stress and anxiety for years and never able to exhale. But as Claire sat with this, she noticed something else. She noticed that there was this line of overwhelm underneath it all, that she could start to notice and change how close she was riding to that line. These messages of, what's the point? You've tried everything. Nothing works for you, were just signals that she was over that line. Doesn't mean that's actually what she believed. That's just the thoughts and feelings that we will always have when we are past our critical line of overwhelm. Other people can have energy. Other people can heal, but not you. You're different. You're broken. Oh, she now recognized as, that's just a message that my body is in overwhelm. So it wasn't just that Claire didn't know how to complete her stress responses, but somewhere along the way, she had started to believe these thoughts and feelings that she had when her body was in the overwhelm response. She thought about all those courses and all the books on her bookshelf, all the knowledge that she's accumulated, and how she'd slowly stopped actually applying because she hadn't seen the change. And what's the point? Am I even worth it? This feeling, this deep, quiet giving up, it felt familiar. And it's not just Claire. I saw it in myself. This is how I began to recognize that I had a chronic functional freeze. That's what burnout actually is, a chronic functional freeze. I see this in so many of my patients, and certainly those who come through my courses now. They've tried so many things. They know so much. And yet there's this part of them that has actually stopped believing that change is possible. They don't want to hope anymore because hope has just led to disappointment. They don't think that they can survive another disappointment. There's a name for this. It was discovered through a study on dogs back in the 1960s, a study that, when I first learned about it, gave me chills because I recognized it in myself, and it was the same pattern that was showing up in Claire. I'm guessing you might recognize yourself in this study too. It was actually a study on learned helplessness, and understanding what that actually is changed everything for me because I learned that it was just a pattern that was programmed into my nervous system. It wasn't actually me. It was just a programming, and that I could reprogram that. So let me share this with you. There were experiences that we had where we were helpless. If we hadn't have had those experiences, it wouldn't have been programmed into us that we were helpless, because that is not how the body is naturally designed to respond to problems. Our body is naturally designed to respond to problems with the sympathetic nervous system that moves us to action. So if that's not our default anymore, we had to have been programmed through experiences to believe something different. And here is how that happens. There was a study done. His name was Seligman. He was a psychologist, behavioral psychologist. He did this study on learned helplessness. Now, this was not fair to the dogs, and this is not the point of the story. I do just want to mention that because many of you will feel sorry for the dogs in this study. This was a real study. You can look it up. The study was that they put dogs into a container where one side of the container had a bed that provided electrical shocks to the dogs. There was a short barrier that they could easily jump over. And on the other side, it had no pad for shocks. So that was where they were safe. One side would give them shocks. The other side had no shocks. And it was easy for them. All they had to do was jump over. But what he did was he tied up half of the dogs to the wall so that even when they tried, they could not jump over. Oh, they tried. The dogs hated the shocks. As soon as the shock started, they started trying to escape. And they watched their fellow dogs be able to escape and saw that they could not. They saw others being able to do it. What do you think they started to believe about themselves? What did they start to believe about themselves when they saw that they were giving it their best? They were trying, but no matter how hard they tried, they could not. They started to believe there's something wrong with me. Other people can do it. There's something inherently wrong with me. So that even if I tried harder, even if I tried longer, what's the point? Because there's something wrong with me. But here's what happened next in the experiment. He untied the dogs. And now he redid the whole experiment. Put all the dogs on one side, but now none of them were tied up. He turned on the electrical shock pad. The shocks started coming. The dogs who had jumped over before, they knew what to do. They jumped over. It wasn't even a stress for them because they knew how to escape. It was more of an inconvenience. Oh, shoot, another shock. Okay, I need to move over to the other side. It wasn't a stress because they had gone through the movements of knowing how to escape. But what happened to the dogs who had been tied up the first time? I think you know this without me even having to tell you this. It gives me chills and goosebumps right now just thinking about it, because I can recognize this in my life. I've done this. They didn't even try. Not only did they not try, they laid down on the mat because they knew that they couldn't escape. This was just their lot in life. They couldn't expect anything different. Other people could expect a good life, but not them. And they laid down, experiencing even more of the shocks from the pad, and just whined. This is sad for me because I spent so many years of my life doing this very thing. Why do other people have a good life? Why do I see other people having a healthy family, outside enjoying a good health? And I'm here, I can't even get out of bed. I've just got diagnosed with something. Just had a separation, a loss. Is this my lot in life? This must be my lot in life. Let me just accept it. And let me lay down and just wait to die. I can't expect anything better. Or maybe you're like the elephant. They train elephants to stay where they want them to stay. And the way that they do this is they have to get them when they're young. If they don't get them when they're young, they can't train them to do this. And when they're young, they tie their trunk to a post that they cannot move. Now, as an adult elephant, they would easily be able to move that post. They could tear it up in pieces. An elephant is an enormous and strong and beautiful creature. They are so powerful, but you can break its power. You can convince it that it's not strong, that it's weak, powerless, incapable. If you take it when it's young, tie it to something that is bigger than what it can move, and eventually it will stop trying. Eventually it will give up and stop trying. And here's the crazy thing. You take that same elephant now as an adult elephant, you tie it up with a string to a post, to a stick. All it needs to see is that it's tied up in some way. It's now an illusion because it's just a string and it's just a stick. But it's been programmed to believe, I can't. And so it doesn't. And it stays right there, even taking abuse, neglect, because it's been programmed to believe, I can't. We are incredibly, innately strong, powerful, capable. And yet we find ourselves getting overwhelmed with small problems, problems that don't really matter in the big scheme of life. But it's because we've been programmed to believe that any problem is too big for us. We are inherently incapable. This is what we've gotten wrong about the stress response. And this is what has kept us in stress. It's kept us on that shock pad, just laying there, taking it, thinking that this is all that we can expect, all that we deserve. We don't deserve better. So I'm not going to work towards something better. So how do we get out of this? How do we change this? So what we need to do then is be able to come back to these two critical skills that I started with. Critical skill number 1, generate a great stress response. The dogs, the first experiment, they had to generate a stress response to jump over the wall. If they couldn't generate a stress response, they were not going to be able to jump over the wall. And that is why you and I need to learn how to generate a stress response so that we can jump over the wall. Otherwise, it doesn't matter if we're tied up or not, we're not going to be able to get over the wall. We're going to try, we're going to hit the wall and fall back down on the electrical shock pad. We'll try again, we'll fall back down. And eventually, just like the elephant, we will stop trying. And this is what has happened because we haven't generated a good enough stress response to actually get us over the wall. When I first learned about this study, I got chills because I recognized myself in these dogs. I recognized the years I had spent believing that other people could have good lives, happy relationships, but not me. And as I think about Claire missing her daughter's track meets, watching Emma become the caretaker at 14, her bookshelf full of certifications that couldn't help her, here's what I hope you heard. Those dogs weren't broken. Claire wasn't broken. Their body had adapted for surviving powerlessness. Just like you are not broken. Your body was programmed by experiences that taught your nervous system that escape was not possible. So here's the thing. Those dogs didn't stay stuck forever. The good news is that the researchers found a way to help them remember how to jump and be dogs again. And in the next podcast episode, I'm going to show you exactly how they did that, because it was not through treats and incentives like we would think. If this episode resonated with you, you will want to check out episode 31 on Am I Tired or Is This Trauma? Episode 122 on Shut Down Before Stress, the misstep in trauma healing that often gets missed. I'm here to save you time and money by bringing you practical information that will help you accelerate the healing journey. While I usually ask for a review of the podcast, today I am going to make an ask for a review of the book. Take a moment, just a moment, to leave a review on Amazon or Goodreads. Your feedback on my book helps me know what is resonating with you so that I can bring you great content here and helps others find information that could change their life as well. I'm your host, Dr. Amy. Until next episode, lots of love.